Next up, in Chapter 2 of Mastering Meditation, we'll be focusing on why a slow breath rate is so important. And just to recap, what he considers a slow breath rate is 7 breaths per minute or less. And he does point out in here how that can be difficult for people. And I guess he would know because he's helped out a lot of people with meditation and this technique in particular. But just to me, man, that seems like it really should not be that hard, assuming you don't have some other physical issue with yourself. And also something he doesn't point out in here, but something that I think would help out a lot, is if you're doing it lying down, I would imagine that it's probably, far easier to reach that 7 breaths per minute or less if you're having a hard time doing it sitting up. And so he writes, this technology or technique will feel exactly like cheating. He points out how if you're breathing fast, which he considers to be like 12 to 18 breaths per minute, it's essentially impossible to deep breathe, which kind of just had me wondering, like, if deep breathing is really just filling your lungs up with a lot of air and, dropping your diaphragm out so it can fill more fully. It does make me wonder if you're doing that yogic breath where you kind of like pop your diaphragm out and then you force it in and you force all the air out really quickly, kind of like a way to, kind of similar to like Wim Hof's breathing if you've ever tried that. So I don't know if that would count as deep breathing, but it kind of made me want to try and see if I could do it. But nonetheless, don't do that. You're trying to relax. So when you're doing this whole meditation thing, right, you want to slow it down. He points out how if you're having a hard time hitting the 7 breaths or less, or I guess the 7 breaths, because if you could do less, then this wouldn't be an issue. But if you're having a hard time hitting the 7 breath mark, he points out how for some people, if you're doing 10 breaths per minute, that can still induce this HRV resonance. In slowing and elongating the breaths, you give the breath time to go back and forth, stimulating the sympathetic and then parasympathetic systems. He elaborates a little bit about why that is, basically like your diaphragm pushing on internal organs. I don't know, different parts of you internally. I don't want to go ahead and read that. I'm just sticking to my highlights. That's why it stimulates the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. AMOL, so an acronym, always make the out-breath longer. And this is something that I noticed, just at least for me, kind of something I noticed naturally. Again, I first noticed this when I was meditating inside of a float tank or a sensory deprivation tank, that just kind of naturally watching my breath, I did notice that the out-breath seems to kind of become longer on its own as you really relax with it. But if you make every out-breath nice and long, you will keep awakening the dorsal-vagal complex, which in turn will awaken the parasympathetic and calm the heart and the entire system. Take out the pauses. So this is one thing that I had to add into my practice, because I've kind of just always defaulted to a version of my play dead technique whenever I'm focusing on my nice, slow, long breaths. I talked a bit about my play dead technique in the previous video, but he recommends to take that out. So when you keep the breath continuous, taking out the pauses at the top and bottom of the breath, then you give the body a better chance of fluctuating between the sympathetic and then the parasympathetic. Here he points out the whole low idle state thing. This low idle state slows down the entire, this low idle state slows down all of the body machinery. I cannot read. I think that's basically it. He does point out in here how he has a resonant breathing app available. He doesn't specifically point this out, but I would imagine, because he doesn't say it's only available on like Apple, it's probably available on like Apple and Android. I probably should have went ahead and looked this up, because my work phone's an Apple, my personal phone's an Android. I could have looked it up for you, but you can look it up yourself. So the Resonant Breathing app, this will help you find a breath pattern under 7 breaths per minute, which is comfortable for you. And then we'll end it off with this, and we'll actually would have wrapped up all of chapter 2 in 2 videos. Maybe it won't take me forever to get through this book. We'll just have to wait and see though. But by making the in-breath slightly shorter, you are allowing the dominance of the sympathetic system. By making the out-breath longer every time, you are accentuating the parasympathetic system. This is the meditative science of doing. So, pretty cool. And we'll leave it with that. Until the next video, keep your meditation practice legit.